Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It is episode 13 of the Payne Report, and as promised, we're going to talk a little bit of the college football playoff, and then I'm going to touch on a little something that I've been seeing around Titans Twitter as recently. Just a little something, nothing too long, should take a couple minutes. And then we're going to talk about the career versus the streak, Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker, WrestleMania 26, to build to that, and I have to say, finished watching that match this morning, amazing match. But anyway, yeah, you know the drill. Twitter, Instagram, go check that out. I said it multiple times. You should already know. If you don't, it's at CP4227 on Twitter, at PayneRcam4227 on Instagram. But anyway, there have been rumors swirling in Mel that the college football playoff could potentially expand to 12 teams when the 12-year contract is up. And I'm just going to say, they actually did have a meeting about this recently, but nothing will be official until the contract would be up. They're just getting how chancellors and school presidents feel about it. They got to meet with the bowl people, then they got to meet with the players because it's going to be more during their finals week. It's going to be more games, etc., etc. So this just last couple of weeks has been filled with 12-team expansion potentially, and I'm just going to say I think that would be stupid, and here's why. I mean, when you look at last season, there's this big image going around of like the potential 12-team playoff that probably would have took place last season if it was in place. So at the start, it would be UGA versus Cincinnati at Cincinnati. UGA beat Cincinnati in the Peach Bowl. UGA probably beat Cincinnati again. Then UGA would play Alabama. Alabama will win, making them go to the national championship. Oklahoma will play Coastal Carolina. No one wants to say that game. Coastal Carolina get the taillights beat out of them. Don't care that they beat BYU. It's BYU. Coastal Carolina would have gotten destroyed. And Oklahoma would then play Notre Dame in South Bend, I believe. No, not South Bend. I believe it was one of the four major New Year's Six. And the same thing with UGA and Alabama would have been one of the four New Year's Six. And everyone's already seen that game. UGA would have lost, like, straight up. And then Oklahoma, I would have losing to Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame just would have beat them probably because they have a better defense. You look on the other side of the bracket, Indiana would play A&M. A&M would beat Indiana. A&M would then play Clemson. Clemson would beat the taillights out of A&M because A&M just got destroyed by Alabama. So that's just how it works. Clemson and Alabama are two completely different levels from what Texas and A&M is. Florida would play Iowa State. No one wants to see that. Florida would just beat Iowa State, probably barely because it's Florida. Florida would play Ohio State. Ohio State would probably likely beat the living heck out of Florida. That would be a blowout. Then Clemson, Ohio State, we already know the result of that. Ohio State would have won that game. Notre Dame versus Alabama, Bama would have won that game. So you would end up getting the same four that you got this year, likely. 95% chance that would probably happen. But everyone's like, okay, let's look at 8 teams then. All right, I'll bring up 2020. LSU would have to play Memphis in Louisiana. Yeah, Memphis would have really put up a fight. So much better in Oklahoma what they did against that LSU team. I think the final score was what was it, 63 or 70 to 28? Yeah, this one was probably even worse. It's probably 70 to 7. That's probably the final score of that game. Then Georgia would play Oklahoma. Georgia would probably end up beating Oklahoma, probably barely. Sorry, I don't think Oklahoma could have beaten an SEC team that year. So Georgia would then play LSU in the Peach Bowl, and then Ohio State would play Baylor. Baylor would get utterly destroyed. And then Oregon versus Clemson. Clemson would utterly destroy Oregon in a game, any game, like any football game. Clemson plays Oregon right now. Clemson destroys Oregon, no doubt, by halftime probably. And then you'd have Clemson and Ohio State. Clemson won that matchup the year before. And then you have LSU playing Georgia after just meeting in the SEC championship game. And, yeah, LSU probably would have beat Georgia again. Woo. And then Clemson would beat Ohio State. And then LSU would destroy Clemson. Just how they did in the national championship game. So outside of Georgia probably beating Oklahoma, you have the same three. You have the same national championship matchup. You have the same, like literally. It's going to be the same. And the reason why I'm against the 12-team playoff and the 8-team, I'm against expansion in general because the games mean more towards the end of the year. I mean, look at it, the Ohio State and Michigan game a couple years ago when Ohio State JT Barrett looked like he came up a yard short, but didn't. He came up a yard short, just going to say that. And it was a high-stakes game. Winner of that would likely go to the Big Ten Championship and go to the college football playoff. Granted, Ohio State didn't go to the Big Ten Championship that year because they lost to Penn State. But, basically, winning that game is basically guaranteed a spot in the college football playoff when you look at it. That would have been it. That would have been a guaranteed spot in the college football playoff. When you look at the SEC championship game between Georgia and Alabama a couple years ago when Alabama came back, that was basically a playoff game right there. These are big games, big moments, and people fail to realize that, yes, all 4 teams, it's not enough. It's not a true playoff. Yes, it is. It is a playoff. Do you really think UCF should have played Clemson or Alabama a couple years ago when Georgia and Alabama faced each other in the national championship game? No, probably not, because UCF would have got smoked by either of those teams. But they pointed out, UCF beat Auburn that year, and they beat a big guy. Not really. Auburn just came off of beating Georgia, Alabama, and then losing to Georgia in the SEC championship game. So they beat the number 1 team back-to-back weeks, and then lost to Georgia. And this was a 2-loss Auburn team before they lost to Georgia. And then Auburn lost 3 losses. The players don't care. They thought they were going to go to the playoff, thought they were going to win the SEC, and they just didn't care. And you could tell the way Auburn players played that game, they just didn't really care. Now, if they got, who knows, a 1-loss Georgia team that felt slighted, or a 2-loss Georgia team that got slided out of the playoff, Georgia probably beat the living hell out of UCF. So that's the thing. It's not going to change the fact that Clemson, Alabama, LSU, or any other team could beat the living hell out of another school. And we saw it with Oklahoma. Let's put Memphis from the 18 playoff example. Do you think Memphis is going to get LSU a run for the money, let alone at a neutral site? It would be projected at an LSU home game, probably prime time in Death Valley. You think Memphis could put up a fight against LSU in that kind of atmosphere? No. They couldn't put up a fight Oklahoma couldn't put up a fight in a neutral game site. What makes you think Memphis is going to give LSU a game at LSU's home field in prime time when it's already tough to win there? It's just, especially with that LSU team with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Grant Delpit on the defensive side of the ball, Caleb Von Chason, Derek Stingley. You look at that team, they were stacked, completely stacked, and they would have destroyed Memphis. Absolutely destroyed them. Probably would have been 56-0 by halftime. Guaranteed, probably. So that's just, and another thing I want to look at is, if you make the national championship game, that's 15 games already on a college student. They got finals, gonna have a, break to go see their family. They're not gonna get all that break. They're not going to get that month-long semester break. I am in college. You get the month-long semester break from the end of the semester to the start of a new one. You get a month-long break for the Christmas, basically. These college kids are playing, let's say they go to 12 teams. That's, 3-4 more games? And they, get 1, maybe a week and a half of just family time after when it's all said and done? After the national championship game? And then you got finals week on top of that. And that's just a lot to ask of these college kids. I know they're they're student athletes, yada, yada, yada. They're playing on the biggest stage. They should be used to that. But college is no joke. If you are a engineer major on the football team, that is tough. That is very tough. And like I said, it's a lot to ask of them because they're sacrificing even more family time. They're sacrificing friend time too. They would have practices during a time when they would probably have off if they push the national championship game back. So who's to even say they get a week? Would probably get 3 or 4 days at that point if they play a 12-team playoff. Unless they go straight from bowl week into the playoff, not bowl week, unless they go straight from conference championship week into the playoff, These kids are not going to have any rest in between. They're not going to have any rest from first semester to second semester. They're not going to have any rest whatsoever, and they already don't get a lot of rest because I believe they'll probably get, around 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks at this current model. So that's just asking a lot for a college kid to play 19 games, 18 games in a season, and during heavily finals week right there too. So that's just a lot to ask of the players right there. That's why I'm a little bit against that too. But outside of the bad matchups, just not being really fair to the players. I mean, they already don't get paid to it. I mean, granted, the Supreme Court did rule against the NCAA on a name, image, likeness thing. So, but that's just not fair to the players to ask, in my opinion. And I think it'd just be stupid to expand it to 8 teams, 12 teams. Don't care. Heck, I don't care. Listen, like, deal with it. Smaller schools, you want to get in the playoff, go play a better schedule, okay? UCF, you want to go play UConn, great. You can go play UConn, blow them out by 24, and not get in the playoff. Or you can go play Auburn and beat them by like 5 and get in the playoff. You pick however you like it. That's how I see it. It's just literally just schedule better teams. Make a deal. Literally schedule a home and home, or schedule an away and away, okay? Just, if you want to prove that you can be with the big boys in college football, then go play them. Okay, go play. I mean, you look at the Houston team. That Houston team, I believe it was 2016. They probably would have made the playoff if you look at it. They beat Oklahoma in the Week 1 opener. They are already numbers 5 ranked. They played a number 2 Oklahoma, beat Oklahoma. All they had to do was run the table, win their conference, and they would have been in the playoff. But no, they lost to Cincinnati, and then they lost to Louisville at home, and they just didn't play well. I know they didn't lose to Louisville; they beat Louisville. But that's my point. They beat Louisville at home, so that's how that went. They lost to Cincinnati on the road, and then they lost to, I believe, another team in their conference. So you had a shot if you just won out. If you just won out, you probably would have made the playoff, but you didn't. Okay. So that's my griff with the college football playoff expansion. Next, I want to talk about Titans. Twitter has been talking a little bit about Marcus Mariota recently, and I'm just going to say a lot of people were like, Marcus, didn't really do much as a Titan. He's a bust and all. He may be a first-round bust, but listen, Marcus Mariota changed the culture in Tennessee. When you look at it, he delivered the team's first playoff win, I believe, since 2006. Took him to the playoffs since 2009. First time being in the playoffs since 2009, 2008. An amazing comeback in Arrowhead was amazing. You look at the pass where he got tipped back to him. He scored himself, caught his own touchdown pass. You saw the guts of the rush on the the game-leading touchdown drive when they took the lead. Where he ran about 15 yards of a hurt hamstring. And then he threw a dime to Eric Decker right down the middle to score the game-leading touchdown. And then the game-sealing block, the spring Derrick Henry loose, get a first down and end the game. I mean, you look at Marcus Mariota. Marcus Mariota is the definition of a team player. He will catch the ball, he will block, he will do whatever he has to do to win the football game. There's the game versus the Eagles the next season that come to mind. There's the game against the Giants that same year when he blocked a linebacker and completely destroyed this guy too. There was actually talk about unnecessary roughness on a quarterback of all people. But so that's my just griff with Marcus Mariota. And another thing, when he took over for Derek Carr against the Los Angeles Chargers in that Thursday night game, I was on Titans Twitter at the time, just looking at Twitter. I never seen Titans fans root so hard for a team that's not the Titans. And I was rooting as hard. I never rooted for a team as hard as I have ever had that is not the Titans during that game. Because I wanted Marcus Mariota to win that. And diving touchdown run he had, the dime to Darren Waller was amazing. He played a really good game. It's just unfortunately the Raiders couldn't pull it out. But that's my griff. Marcus Mariota, I wouldn't have it any other way. If the team could go back in 2015 and pick someone else number 2, I would have said stick with Marcus. Okay? The team didn't really do surround him with a whole lot of talent. He had a revolving door of offensive coordinators, 3 head coaches. So, look, I would have picked Marcus Mariota every day of the week and twice on Sundays. Give me Marcus Mariota. I will gladly defend him and gladly follow him on a battlefield anywhere. Marcus Mariota is amazing. I follow Marcus Mariota. He's a leader. He's amazing. He's a good quarterback. He's not a great quarterback. He's a good quarterback. Mediocre. He's not the best. And that's the thing. He's just a leader. And he gets it done in his way. He doesn't need to be rah-rah. But we look at Marcus Mariota, great person, great football player in college, Heisman Trophy winner. And that's my grift with that. Marcus Mariota, just thank you for all you've done as a Titans fan. Not going to say that I don't love Tannehill. I love Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill's great. He's taken the Titans to new levels. But Marcus Mariota, he showed a lot of heart and helped change that culture, the winning culture that we see now with Mike Vrabel. So that is my grief with that. Anyways, now we're going to transition into probably going into the match number 2 at WrestleMania between Shawn Michaels and Undertaker. This time, stakes are higher. The streak versus the career. The last year's WrestleMania, WrestleMania 25, was Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker, Heaven versus Hell booking. Now this is streak versus career. And boy, did the build-up was amazing. Elimination Chamber 2010. I was surprised by the people in this match. R-Truth was in this match. Didn't realize he'd be competing for a World Heavyweight Championship. John Morrison looked pretty good in that match. I have to say, John Morrison in that match was pretty cool. There was R-Truth, Rey Mysterio, CM Punk was in the match, Chris Jericho, Undertaker, and that was it. That was a 6. And John Morrison, obviously. So that was a 6 in that match. And it came down to Chris Jericho and The Undertaker. And then this was actually, not point this out, the toughness of The Undertaker and the dependability of Undertaker as a performer and as a wrestler. He was burned by his own pyro going in this match. I didn't realize that until I was rewatching the pay-per-view. And at Undertaker's entrance, it cut from his pyro to him running to the ring. And the announcer sold it as like, oh, he can't wait to get in the ring. And I was like, wait, no, that's the time when he said he was burned by his own pyro. And he proceeded to wrestle, I believe it was 15, 20 minutes more after that. So he waited 20 minutes to get into the match because he was in the pod. And then he wrestled 15, 20 minutes more at the end of the match. It was the dependability of The Undertaker is insane. So Shawn Michaels ended up popping up out of the grate when Undertaker was about to hit Chris Jericho with a tombstone. And then out, Shawn Michaels hits Undertaker with Sweet Chin Music, costing him the World Heavyweight Championship. Jericho sold it great. I love the way Jericho sold it too. He was like, I can't believe this. My rival just gifted me a championship? Heck yeah! Like, that was awesome. And then next night on Raw, February 22nd Raw. Good promo package. Opens up the show of last year's WrestleMania. Shawn comes out. Basically, it kind of just highlights Shawn's challenging The Undertaker after, winning I believe it was called the Slammy Awards whenever they did that. That was when they did the Slammy Awards. It was like yearly awards things for stuff that happened that year. And he and Undertaker won Best Match. And Shawn, challenged him, says they can have a better match, that he knows he can beat them, that he knows he can beat The Undertaker. And then it kind of just goes into this, highlight package of the match last year. And then it goes into recapping more into going up to the Royal Rumble, how Undertaker declined to face Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania, how Shawn Michaels failed to win the Royal Rumble to try to face Undertaker because Undertaker was the World Heavyweight Championship at that time at WrestleMania. And it was just building this obsession and just building the obsession of facing the Undertaker. You could tell it was taking a toll on Shawn. It cost him and Triple H the tag titles at the Elimination Chamber that night. And then he comes out and says, Shawn Michaels said he did what he had to do to get a reaction from The Undertaker. To get the reaction that he needed The Undertaker to accept that match. And Taker comes out. Shawn says he couldn't live with the mistake that cost him with the moonsault off the top rope that ended up costing Shawn Michaels the WrestleMania 25 match from Undertaker hit him with a tombstone, reversed the moonsault into a tombstone, ended the match. And Taker ignored him, so Shawn had to do what he had to do. Taker accepts with one condition. He says he has to put something up too, because Undertaker said he puts up his streak, you put up your career, and Shawn accept. And then March 1st Raw, Shawn comes out to open the show again, recaps the Elimination Chamber and the challenge that got laid out last week on Raw. The career versus the streak is laid out. Shawn is saying everyone in his locker room thinks he's crazy. No one will look him in the eye. Everyone turns away from him when he tries to talk to them. They're kind of just looking at him like he's a dead man walking, essentially, like his career is going to be over, that no one believes he can win, but he knows he can win because he's Mr. WrestleMania. And then Triple H comes out. And after Shawn says, if anybody in the back believes that I can't win, come out right now. Triple H comes out, and Shawn's like shocked. He's like, oh my God, I can't believe. And then Triple H was like, no, I know you can win. And he's like, and you know what? After the night after WrestleMania, we're going to throw a big party at DX can. This was when DX got back together. And he's like, I re-invoked our rematch clause for the tag team titles. And Shawn's like, oh no, we're going out different. And Triple H is like, no, we have to technically defend them for 30 days. So that's what, 28 days from now at WrestleMania. Well, we'll just defend them the next night on Raw and celebrate the good time. Like, you're the man that beat the streak and everything like that. And then it goes on until later in the night when Triple H and Shawn Michaels are about to win the tag championships. Undertaker comes on Jumbotron, tracks Shawn Michaels in, losing the match because of it. And this goes into next week's Raw on March 8th. Undertaker comes out and he starts talking. It kind of recaps that Undertaker cost DX the tag titles. Says Shawn obsession will cost him his career. Then Shawn comes out, says Taker is right that he's had this obsession, but he had this epiphany that said Shawn had to do what he had to do at Elimination Chamber to cost Taker the World Heavyweight Championship. Undertaker didn't need to cost Shawn Michaels and Triple H the tag titles. He was trying to intimidate him, trying to make him fear The Undertaker, and that's because The Undertaker's scared because no one else came close as Shawn did to beating the streak last year. And The Undertaker's afraid and said that he was so close, obviously. Taker says he doesn't know if it's confidence or desperation that Michaels has. And then Shawn adds he wants to add a stipulation. The only way to win the match will be by pinfall or submission, because he touched on last year how he would have won by disqualification or a countout, but he doesn't want to do that this year. He wants to win by either pinfall or submission. So there's no countouts, no DQ in this match. And Undertaker says he can see Shawn's belief in him and accepts. Undertaker says he can. Yeah, tongue-tied. Can't English today. That's great. Undertaker says that he sees Shawn's belief in himself, that Shawn Michaels, he can clearly see that Shawn Michaels believes that he can beat the streak. He can see that in him, and he accepts the stipulation. March 15th for all. Nothing really built in terms of build. Shawn Michaels versus Chris Jericho. Didn't really watch the match. So there's nothing really in terms of build that happened here. Didn't really do anything in build. March 22nd Raw. Shawn's opened the show. It recapped on SmackDown how Shawn Michaels caught The Undertaker with a sweep chin music, kind of shades of last year, except this time Undertaker kind of was ready and caught him like in the choke slam position. Shawn countered, hit him with the sweep chin music, and did like the little thing that Undertaker does like that when Undertaker looks back. So Shawn did that and did his little dance on top of Undertaker too, just mocking The Undertaker again. Promo package of Shawn's career goes is like The Undertaker kind of shades of last year too, when Shawn Michaels kind of had that funeral package for the streak. It shows like kind of Shawn Michaels' career and then him losing last year at WrestleMania, and how his career will go from 85 to 2010. That would be his year. His career would be essentially dead because Undertaker would retire him. Nothing else really happens that night. He faces Kane in a match, and then Undertaker chokeslams him at the end of the match. And then WrestleMania 26. And I just have to say, WWE needs to make developmental wrestlers that are not yet on NXT, that are at the Performance Center right now, watch this match. It really shows two veterans, two guys with technical chemistry too, in the ring, and just being able to put on a show. They told a story in the match. The injured leg with The Undertaker was always pointed out on commentary. It happened early on in the match after Undertaker hit an old school, kind of looked like he tweaked his knee, his ankle, and Shawn targeted the rest of the match. You saw him kick at it. You saw him punch at it. You saw him do chop blocks at it. You saw him put the figure four in, the ankle lock, a moonsault off the. And then I'll touch on that in a minute. The moonsault off onto the announce table. He hit Undertaker's knee. I don't think he meant to hit Undertaker's knee. He's trying to hit more body mass. But the commentary team did a good job of saying he hit the injured knee. He hit the injured knee. I think Taker's leg is broken, and Taker was doing a good job throughout the entire match, just selling this kind of limp of just not knowing where he is when he's getting hit with this, especially at the end with the moonsault. Looked like Taker didn't know where he was and everything like that. So, if you want young wrestlers to learn the art of selling, to learn the storyline of a match, to, keep, essentially attacking an injury, essentially, or just build more of a story in a match. Nothing needs to be high spots, flips, and amazing ladder spots, and jump off the top rope and 20 tables. You don't need to do this. This match had probably three big moments. It was the tombstone on the outside after Shawn Michaels jumped off going a crossbody off the top ropes onto the outside. Undertaker hit him with a tombstone. That was one big moment. Then the announce table moonsault happened. That was one big moment. And then the last big moment was the jumping tombstone that happened at the end that ended the match. Those were three big spots. That's all they needed. And you look at promotions now like AEW, they just got big spot after big spot after big spot. It's like, can we just get some wrestling? Can we actually see some wrestling, some selling, and nothing needs to be flips and go through 20 tables and hit each other with barbed wire chairs and literally just wrestle and don't plan too many high spots. This match was perfect. At the start, Shawn Michaels mocks the Undertaker with the Undertaker signature throat slash. The technical work between Undertaker and Shawn Michaels in this match was amazing. I touched on the tombstone on the outside. Holy cow, that looked brutal. I thought Shawn was going to reverse out of it. Actually, I wanted to point out early on in the match, Undertaker did go for a tombstone, and the way Shawn Michaels escaped was going at the injured right knee, and that was another way of telling the story within the match, with an injury, essentially. These two were great. 20 plus years of wrestling shows how they can put on an amazing match. The spots were better than last year's. The only thing I missed was JR being on commentary, because the year before was when he yelled, "I had an out-of-body experience" when Shawn Michaels kicked out of the tombstone. But anyways, but if, like I said, this match is textbook. If you want to teach young wrestlers, certain high spots of the match, telling a story, technical work, selling, injuries, stuff like that, show them this match. This is an extreme example of, this is textbook. This is what we want to see, a couple years from now when, you're more seasoned, you're more of a veteran. This is what we want to see. And I think WWE should do that at the Performance Center. Show this match. Heck, show the one from the year before, too. It was great. So after the moonsault onto the announce table, gosh, that was crazy. It looked like Undertaker was going to throw Shawn Michaels into a last ride into the announce table. Shawn reversed, hit him with Sweet Chin Music, then went up to the top rope, hit a moonsault, and holy cow. Talk about oh my gosh moment. That was awesome. He rolls Undertaker back in the ring, hits Undertaker with the Sweet Chin Music. Everyone thinks it's over. Heck, I'm just now watching it for the first time ever. I'm like, even though I know the outcome of the match, I'm like, at the time, if I was watching this, I would have thought it was over. I would have thought Shawn Michaels would have beat the streak, and they were selling on commentary like that too. And then Undertaker kicked out, and then it's like, oh my gosh, everyone thought it was over. And then Undertaker hits Shawn Michaels with a tombstone, and he kicks out, and everyone's shocked. Everyone thought it was going to be end after the tombstone on the outside, the punishment that Michaels took in the match. Everyone thought that was it. He kicks out, and Undertaker, as he's about to go, he stands up as he takes off, the hooks of his singlet, and he's about to do the throat slash, his signature throat slash that he does before finishing off the match. He stops, and he looks down at Shawn, and it's like kind of like a show of respect. And then Shawn's trying to get up, and he's like, stay down, and it's like showing that mercy that we never ever seen out of the Undertaker, really. And then Shawn mocks him again with the throat slash, and then slaps him in defiance, pisses off the Undertaker, picks him up, jumping tombstone, 1, 2, 3. Shawn Michaels' career is over. That's it. And you can just see the crowd was going nuts, and then there was silence. Like, you could hear a pen drop. And Shawn Michaels, like, that was insane to see. He went out probably in the best way when you can. Wrestlers generally don't win their last match in terms of the business. That's just how the business works. They generally don't win their last match. And 9 times out of 10, when it's time for a wrestler to retire, they're not as good as they used to be. They're usually on a part-time schedule, and they usually don't put up as good of a match that Shawn Michaels and Undertaker did that year. Shawn Michaels was 45 at the time, and he put on an amazing performance. He stole the show. He was Mr. WrestleMania, showstopper. And then, I'm going to touch on this in the next podcast episode, kind of sets up the Undertaker and Triple H, technically part 3 of the end of the era. So there's 4 parts to the end of the era. Shawn Michaels and Undertaker, WrestleMania 25, Heaven vs. Hell. Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker, WrestleMania 26. That is the career versus the streak. And then WrestleMania 27 is kind of Triple H kind of respect for Shawn. Like, this is for Shawn. I'm going to beat the streak for Shawn. And then the 4th one is the Undertaker's redemption after what happened. He didn't walk out of the arena. He couldn't walk. He got ambulance, and then it's kind of sold in this Hell in a Cell, and it's going to be this big thing, end of an era, and that's potentially part 4 of the end of the era. So now we're going to go, technically, ending the Shawn Michaels and Undertaker feud to ending the Heaven vs. Hell, career versus streak, showstopper versus phenom. Now we're going to go into part 3 of the end of the era in the next episode. Not sure when that's going to come out. But I know this one, I'm going to likely post this for Friday. 4th of July weekend is happening, so I'm not going to record or do any work like that. I'm going to head home for 4th of July weekend. This is what I'm doing. So it's going to come up this episode is going to come out on Friday. It's going to be great, hopefully. But like I said, WWE, not going to lie, WWE back in this time, still kind of good. Good. They had an okay card. I watched a little bit of it before watching the Shawn Michaels and Undertaker match. Edge and Chris Jericho. Made no sense why Chris Jericho needed to win that WrestleMania match. Edge probably should have won the World Heavyweight Championship to begin with. But anyways, that is the end of the end of the Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 25 and 26, and then we'll go into part 3 of end of an era, and we're just going to look at that, talk about that match, the build-up, and everything to that. Triple H versus The Undertaker. That will be the next one. I believe that is WrestleMania 27 in Atlanta, Georgia. And, yeah, that will conclude this episode of the Payne Report. I hope everyone enjoyed it. I hope you all have a safe and wonderful 4th of July weekend. Go watch some fireworks, have some food, eat some good burgers and hot dogs, barbecue, steaks, whatever you like. If you want to go get pizza. Do whatever you love. Just enjoy the holiday weekend. Be safe always, and hope everyone had a